All right, tonight we're going to talk about. I thought it would be a fun exercise to compare and contrast um, my plan to the 4% plan using all my same assets. So, I mean, I'll give you my take on it before we get into the details of it. And again, on the bottom right is a subscribe button. So if you look at this, I'm going to show this every time. This is just where I'm at with my plan in Right Capital. So what I wanted to do, I'm not a fan of the 4% rule. I'll tell you why. Because I just think life is more complex than that. So I think we're smarter than that. I think if we're watching um, if we're monitoring our plan using Right Capital, we can react in bad times and stuff like that. The other thing too is I don't think um, like the 4% rule tends to assume inflation. It assumes you're going to spend the same all the time. And of course, you don't. You have go go years, you have higher healthcare years. There's just a lot of things going on. So I thought it would be fun to take my plan and just compare it to taking my same assets and running them through the 4% plan. So let's talk about what my inputs are going to be. So clearly, like we've talked about this a million times, maybe not a million, but quite a few. I use the cash flow tab under retirement a lot because it kind of gives me a summary. So remember, what the 4% rule is going to tell me is what I can spend with 4% and what my remaining assets will be. So my equivalent spend in Right Capital is retirement, cash flows, and then the summary. Okay, so I'm not going to care so much about the income. This is my total spend should be the total outflows. Um, so in other words, I've got total inflows, total outflows, and then net flows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export, because this I got to do in Excel. I'm going to export all of this, my total outflows, into a spreadsheet. Then what I found is this website, which I'm going to show you right now, this 4% rule website that basically says, hey, put in some data and I'll go over these real quick. And it gives you your withdrawal, what it would be at 4%, what your remaining portfolio value is, what it is in today's dollars. I'm just going to be looking at portfolio value. I don't want to worry about like de-inflationing it back to today's values and all that good stuff. So let's talk about the inputs. I put in my current age, 58. What are my current assets? 1.7. Number of retirement years, I'm going to shoot for 30 because I have mine at like 89. But like I said, it gets the point. What are some things I have to think about? Social Security, my Social Security, my wife's Social Security. My wife has a pension. We don't do yearly contributions anymore. I mean, she does, but it's like $600. It's nothing. Inflation, I'm just going to pick 2.9. I don't know what Right Capital is using. Well, Right Capital is really smart, right? It allows you to use different inflations for different things, different expenses. But we're just going to pick 2.9. Like I said, I had to start somewhere. Um, Pre-retirement returns, I'm going to go really modest with 5%, which is, I think, what Heritage, which is where I get my Right Capital through, uses 5%. Post-return retirement, well, my pre-return doesn't really matter because I'm 58 and it's saying what's my current age, 58, what's your retirement age. So theoretically, it should never use pre-retirement. But so post-retirement returns 5%. And then for fixed income investments, we're going to go 2.9. And bear in mind, that's probably a little bit low in today's world, but I can't imagine interest rates are going to stay this high the whole way through. I'm going to go with a 60-40 portfolio. Funny thing is, mine is probably more 50-50, but I wonder if I should just switch that. Because I think when I showed my portfolio, it ended up being kind of 50-50. So let's do that real quick. So we'll go, instead of that, we'll go 50, and I'll just kind of show you how I did this, and 50. Okay, percent of portfolio withdrawal. Obviously, I'm testing what this whole layout versus mine. So I'm going to do the 4% rule. My starting age for Social Security is 67. There's my amount. The starting age for my spouse is going to be 62. There's her amount. And she has one pension starting at 62 for that amount. Okay, so this gets me to my result. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I mean, I had already done this, but whatever. We're going to see here. I could copy it. If it botches up, I'll start another video. I'm going to cruise in here. Wait, what did I copy? Did I just copy the data? Hold on. Yeah, I just copied the data. And we're going to go into Excel. We're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and we're going to say paste. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's make this column a little wider just so you can see it. Okay, so what did I do in this spreadsheet here, right? So what I was doing in this spreadsheet is saying on the left, I've got the 4% rule website, right? And then on the right, I have my plan, my right capital, which came from that summary page. So if you go here, you go to summary, it came from here because I want to know about the outflows. I hid some columns though. Oops, hold on. Okay. I hid some columns because they were just getting in the way. You can see that there. All right, so what am I trying to do? What I'm trying to do is say, hey, what is the outflow, what I'm going to spend in the 4% rule? For some reason, it starts at 0 here, so I actually had to start here at 59. And so if you look at this spreadsheet right here, oh, no. Control Z, F2. I hit F4 instead of F2. So what am I doing? I'm taking the withdrawal plus the 2 Social Securities because that's essentially what I'm going to be doing. I'm just trying to compare like spending. You know what I mean? What I'm going to spend. And then over here, so that's the combined spend. And then over here, what's my combined spend on the right capital side of the house, which has fluctuations, right? Total outflows right here. That's it. Already does it for me. So total outflows. This is the expense side, and what Right Capital does, it takes all what I put in and it says I'm going to spend that. Okay. So, and then what do I have over here? I have a difference between the two plans. So the idea behind this is to say what's the behavior of this, like over 30 years, what's going to happen with 4%. And obviously, this makes a degree of a lot of sense, right? 4% is going to be small withdrawals when I'm 59, when my portfolio is smaller. And then as the portfolio gets larger and larger, 4% will be that. Now, I understand too, you're thinking in the back of your head, well, you're not always going to get whatever it was, 5% returns every year, which that's totally true, but you got to do something, so you gotta plan something. What is it? Plan. Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter. I was going to say, if you don't plan to fail. That was the saying. Okay. So I have the total differences in plan. So, right, this is going up as I go with 4%, assuming it always goes up, which obviously you can't assume that, but you got to do something. So, because the right side, Right Capital, also assumes I'm always going up. So this is the difference between the two. So if you look at the difference between the two, first of all, just kind of look at the numbers, right? This makes a lot of sense. I'm spending more during my go-go years. So right away, you're seeing I'm spending a lot more because I'm like, hey, it's 59. I want to live. I don't want my portfolio to drive my lifestyle, but I got to be acutely aware that, I got to be careful towards the end. So if you see, I end around 77. That's my go-go years. So you're going to see that's about when my plan starts spending less, except for this 28,000, which I'm not quite sure. Can't explain that. Oh, I bet you that's because I'm moving into long-term care. So you're going to see these are minus because I'm spending less. I'm spending less, but yet the 4% rule, because my portfolio is so big, is spending more. So the total difference between the two is 649,000. So what that's saying is I'm going to spend 649,000 more on my plan. Okay, which just makes kind of sense. You think about it. I got some pretty big numbers up here that I'm spending more that aren't making anything in the market. So if you look at that total, I don't know why it does this. It's kind of funny. If you look at the total of these guys, come on, Excel. The total is 835,000. I know it's very confusing, but I don't know what's going on. My stupid lower panel only does it in Excel. That's a lot of money that's not in the market. So that explains why this side, the left side and 4%, has so much more money, because this is all money that I'm spending and kind of investing in my life over investing in the market. So what's the total difference? The total difference is if I do my plan versus a standard 4% plan, assuming they're both around a 5% interest rate, I'm going to have 649,000 less in theory. That's just in spend, or more in spending. Sorry, this is my total spend. So what it means is my plan in Right Capital using, variables and go-go years and all this, different kinds of expense items that last different periods of time is going to spend $649,000 more, which is okay as long as your end balance is okay and you're not running out of money. So let's take a look at what their end balance is. So their end balance right here is 4,578,000, right? So now in Right Capital, where do I get my end balance from? I get my end balance from cash flows, or no, from accounts. If you go to accounts, it gives you like your end balance. So I did that. I went down here. My end balance is 1,741,000. So if you go here, that's what I think yeah. Oh, I wonder if something must have changed. I wonder if the stock has updated since this afternoon. So my end balance now at 88. Oh, maybe because that was 89. And that's 89. This is 88. Is 1,780,000. So this is all about opportunity cost, right? Like, do you want, as long as you're ending fairly okay, and as long as you're using your brains, that's why I'm big on Right Capital, right? So, or any planning tool, you got to monitor, you know, the markets, or let the tool monitor how you're doing with your retirement plan so you don't overspend or underspend. So in this case, there's an opportunity cost, right? I'm deciding because I'm gonna spend more money younger. That one, if everything goes normal, it's gonna be I'm gonna spend $649,000 more, right? So if you take away 649,000 from this because I'm spending it, then you got roughly like 3.9, and I've got 1.8. So I'm roughly it's about a 1.8 million opportunity cost for me to enjoy my earlier years. Totally worth it for me. Now if this was a negative, if I was running out of money, then we'd be having a different conversation. And who knows? At some point, I may run out of money. Maybe in 10 years, the interest rates will start going down, and I'll have to adapt. I'll go into my Right Capital or whatever I'm using at the time and see that my probability is going down. It's starting to go down, and so I may have to adjust my spending. But at this point in time, I'm okay with that. So basically, what I'm saying is, listen, I'm okay losing a million and change dollars because it's worth spending that money in my earlier life. And I guess that's probably a reflection too of the generation after me. Like a friend of mine's parents, like they have tons of money. Like they just didn't spend anything. And now they have tons of money left, which is great for him. I'm looking for that nice balance. So again, this is just kind of a fun thing to compare, like what is the results of the 4% rule on a plan versus a smarter plan using like Right Capital, or using something, just using yourself, where you have different budgets, different time frames, different, go-go years where you spend more on vacation, maybe go-go years where you just spend more on stuff, or maybe you have a bigger house and you're downsizing, whatever. And basically, your life is more sophisticated than the 4% rule. So I'm glad you took the time to listen. I so appreciate you guys diving into this. I hope it was interesting for you. I mean, theoretically, you could do the same thing I just did and see what your costs are if you're using Right Capital. Don't forget to subscribe to the bottom right. Have yourself a great night. Thanks again so much for listening. I appreciate it. Take care.